I don't have my phone. The first question that the police officer asked me was, did anybody distract you? Nighttime, I lost all of that footage. Everything was on my phone. I lost everything. Hey YouTube, Tiffany here. So today I'm coming at you guys with my very first story time. It's actually a pretty crazy story about how I got pickpocketed while I was in Amsterdam. Now, I was in Amsterdam at the end of November. It was kind of like a late solo birthday trip. It was my first solo trip, and although I'm from a big city, New York City, and I have gotten pickpocketed here before when I was much younger, I went out there, researched, and thought I was well prepared, but evidently that one time I slipped up, I got pickpocketed for my iPhone. In the grand scheme of things, getting pickpocketed really sucks, but when you're abroad, getting pickpocketed for, say, a phone is much better than getting pickpocketed for money, credit cards, your passport, any identification. So I'm really grateful that the person only got my phone and not anything else. So to get into a little bit of the background of the story, it was my very first day there. I was there for 3 nights. I booked a Airbnb for those 3 nights. Everyone was telling me to stay in a hostel for a night just to meet people. They have bars, it's very social. There are other travelers and backpackers. So I decided to stay at the Flying Pig. I stayed at the Flying Pig that's right next to Central Station, kind of like near the red light district. I went back to my hostel and met my roommate. It was my roommate's last night there, but she was kind of really mellow. She was also traveling solo, and she was kind of reserved as I am. So I convinced her to go first off downstairs to the bar at the hostel, which was pretty cool, and we like chatted. And then I remembered that someone in a Facebook group that I'm in for travel posted and asked if anyone else was in Amsterdam and if the person wanted to meet up. So it ended up being a really cool guy and girl duo. I believe they were from Atlanta, and they ended up being really cool. So we met up with them. I don't smoke, so we decided to find a coffee shop bar. The one that we found is called the Bulldog. The Bulldog is supposed to be one of the first and most famous coffee shops in Amsterdam. On the street of the Bulldog, there are actually 3 of them. We went to the one in the middle, which was the Bulldog Cafe Mac, which had a bar in the front and a coffee shop in the back. I was able to get a drink while my friends indulged in their activities. We were all really tired. They had to fly out in the morning. I was really jet lagged. We decided to leave and go and get some food. I was on my phone a little bit. I was talking about how cool the hostel experience was, and I was actually on my phone looking up how much it would be to extend it for an extra night because I really liked the people that I met there. But I put my phone in my jacket pocket while walking out. That was the biggest mistake, and the only thing I regret from my trip was for that split second deciding to put my phone, rather than putting it in my backpack, putting it in my coat pocket, which did not zip or did not close with the phone in it. Thinking that it would be really quick and like just a fast way to walk out of the crowded place. And as soon as we walked outside and stepped off of the steps and like towards the curb, this guy bumped directly into me. This was me, the front of my body, and this was him in the front of his body. And you would have thought that I wasn't even there. And I was like, that was really weird. There's no way that that guy did not see me. And the people that I was with were like, yeah, that was weird. He looked like, I don't know, I just assumed that he was like one of the drunk or like people that were smoking or whatever. So I thought he was like out of it or whatever. So I didn't think anything of it. I kept on going. So I'm exhausted, jet lagged, like just really excited to be on my first solo trip. And I just was not paying attention. I just had that one lapse of judgment putting my phone in my pocket, and it happened that quickly, but I didn't notice initially. So we went to a bakery that was like around the corner and down the block called Renee's Croissants, and when I tell you their churros were amazing and their mini Dutch pancakes were also amazing. We all shared some like sweets, and we started walking, and then I reached for my phone and I was like, I don't have my phone. So my roommate let me sign in to find my iPhone on her cell phone, and it was off. And that's how I knew. I was like, oh my gosh, it's turned off. My phone battery was high when I left. Like, there's no way that it died. Someone turned it off. So we went back to Renee's, and the people there were pretty nice, and they were like, no, I'm sorry, we don't have it, we haven't seen anything. You can call tomorrow and try and get us to review the tapes, but we haven't seen anything. And then they said, like, this is a really touristy area, people are very quick. And I was like, oh shoot. So at that point, there was really nothing that I could do. So we walked a few alleys over, and the police station was actually closed, but we were standing outside just like lost. Like I just was crushed, didn't know what to do. And we found a police officer coming out. First thing that the police officer asked me, which I found was interesting, was, did anyone distract you? And I was like, no, I didn't get distracted. And he's like, are you sure no one distracted you? So I was like, no, we came from the Bulldog, we went to Renee's Croissants, and between that, I just don't know. And he told us that we had to get the IMEI number from our insurance company, come to file a police report, and we can use the paperwork from that police report to give to our insurance company if needed. So we walk away, and I really felt defeated. And my roommate was like, wait, remember that guy that bumped into you? You said that was really weird. The cop asked, did anyone distract you? That's probably when it happened. And then it all clicked, and I was like, oh shoot, that was when it happened. Because the way that he bumped into me, I wasn't paying attention, but it was like a really hard bump. And I read that that's a way that people will try and get your attention away from another part of your body. Like they bump into you high and then they reach in your pocket low and you won't even notice. I was crushed. I felt like my trip was ruined. I checked out of the hostel. I was pissed off. Went back to my Airbnb, which is where my laptop was, and I sent a message to my Airbnb hosts saying that my phone was stolen. And I was on Skype with my mom. My mom was freaking out. My boyfriend was freaking out. Everyone was like so worried. And I was like, well, at least I can contact you, period. You know, I'm not out here in the dark. But it did really suck, and like that vulnerability was really, really hard to deal with. Like going on a solo trip is already putting yourself out there and being a little vulnerable, but then getting pickpocketed and like getting violated in that way, like your space, it made me feel even more vulnerable. And I was dealing with that until like, I think I went to bed like 6:30 in the morning or something like that. So by the time I woke up around like 1, my entire day was gone. I felt like I missed my appointment at the Anne Frank house. I wanted to go to that museum. I also wanted to go to the Van Gogh Museum, the foam museum of photography there. And that was supposed to be my museum, like productive morning, and I missed out on all of it. I was really bummed out. So my Airbnb host greeted me with some breakfast. They were really sweet. And they actually were amazing, and they took me around to a phone store to help me get a new phone. I honestly don't know what I would have done without my Airbnb hosts. They were amazing. They spent their almost entire afternoon. They took me to the shopping area. I found some cheap phone stores. I spent 50 euros on a little replacement phone, which I ended up losing, but we won't talk about that because that's a whole nother story time video. I found this really cheap phone. It was called the Pixie 4, a little 4-inch clunker. It was so unresponsive and so terrible, but I was still able to call my family if needed, dial 911, and basically look up Google Maps, and that was about it. So yeah. In terms of insurance, I called my insurance company from my computer, and they told me that I didn't need to do anything, didn't need to get a police report or anything like that. So that really helped. But I did have to pay for the replacement phone, of course. I had to pay for minutes for the phone, and I had to pay for minutes on my computer. On top of that, when I went to London, I had to buy a new SIM card and more data and minutes. So it ended up being really costly. I really stress the fact of having extra money when you go on vacation, just in case things like this happen. Like if I didn't have any extra money, I would have been SOL and really like stuck. And of course, people have traveled without phones for ages, and people still do. But for me, that being my very first trip and that happening on the very first night, it was like, oh my God. I'm also going to share some tips with you on to not get pickpocketed for your stuff, as well as what to do if you actually do get pickpocketed, only for something like your phone. So the best advice I can give you guys is to always be careful. Don't let your guard down. Make sure if it is wintertime, make sure you have a jacket with pockets that zip and fit all of your important things. Make sure if you're in a country that requires you to carry your passport on your person, you get a money belt which goes underneath your shirt. Money belt will stick flush to your skin. You won't be able to see it underneath your clothes, and you can have your passport, your money, and all that stuff in there so you don't get pickpocketed that way. I've even heard of people having like second wallets that are more flashy than their real wallet, or I've heard of people keeping things. Don't keep things in your sock. I've heard that's already been found. But I had like this little lock on my backpack that was kind of like an extra step to get into the backpack, so no one could like go behind me and reach behind. So it's all about being as conscious as you can, as careful as you can, and protecting your stuff, especially your important documents. As I mentioned, those are priceless, especially when abroad. Well, I hope I didn't mumble too much in this video. I hope you enjoyed my very first story time. Thank you guys so much for watching. Look forward to more videos. If you want to see what happened on my first day, definitely go and check out that video. I'm also visiting Norway at the end of the month, as well as possibly Copenhagen, and maybe going back to Amsterdam. So there's more travel related content coming. I'm also going to be doing a video with some tips for booking your first solo travel trip, what to look out for, and then tips while you're out there, things to do, how to meet people, and things of that nature. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. If you have any comments, leave them down below. If you have a travel story or something that happened to you while abroad that you'd love to share, leave it down below as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.